There's an unsettling reality that many of us prefer not to confront. People around us are masterfully exploiting our innate empathetic nature to control us, turning our kindness against us. The mechanism behind this is rooted in a subtle yet insidious pattern of manipulation, one that leverages vulnerability to fuel a toxic cycle of dependency and coercion. We've all seen it in the people closest to us: the family member who guilt trips us into doing their bidding, the friend who uses tears to get what they want, or the partner who emotionally blackmails us into submission. As we delve into the depths of this phenomenon, we'll explore the darkest motivations and hidden vulnerabilities of those who expertly hijack our trust and sympathy to get what they want, and uncover the secrets that are often kept hidden, even from ourselves. When we allow our vulnerability to be exploited by those who would manipulate us, we're not only losing ourselves, but we're also enabling a toxic dynamic where people get exactly what they want without earning our trust. We're more susceptible to being taken advantage of when our emotional needs are not being met, and our sense of security is rooted in external validation rather than internal self-worth. It's ironic that those who crave control and domination often present themselves as the vulnerable ones, but in reality, they are simply using an emotional masquerade to get what they want from others. Behind every charming and charismatic stranger lies a web of insecurities and fears that they are desperate to have others alleviate, and if we're not careful, we might just find ourselves caught in their trap, trying to validate their ego. Many of us are drawn to people who appear broken or flawed, because deep down, we're hoping to find a sense of connection and shared humanity, but in doing so, we're also giving manipulators access to our sympathies and our emotions. What we often consider to be love, or even a deep connection, might be nothing more than an illusion created by our own self-deception. A desperate attempt to fill a void within ourselves by attaching ourselves to someone who, unbeknownst to us, has ulterior motives. When people use sympathy as a means to an end, it's not because they genuinely care about you, but because they've identified a vulnerability they can exploit to get the response they crave. Their appeal to our emotions isn't about building a relationship, but about gaining control over us by manipulating our emotional responses. The reason individuals resort to manipulation is not because they are powerless, but because they are unable or unwilling to earn genuine trust and respect, so they rely on coercion to get what they want. Their use of sympathy often stems from a deeper insecurity that they are not getting the validation they need through other means, leading them to attempt to elicit a response that will fill this emotional void. The convergence of vulnerability and manipulation happens when an individual uses their attraction to you as a way to deflect from their own insecurities and to exert control over you, often camouflaging this as genuine interest or concern for your well-being. Ultimately, the line between sympathy and emotional blackmail is blurred when an individual uses fear, guilt, or obligation to keep you invested in their relationship, thereby preserving their power and control over you. When we fall prey to people's emotional manipulation, it's often because we've internalized their vulnerability, failing to see the calculated ploys they use to get what they want. People exploit our sympathy because their true intention is to validate their own self-worth, rather than genuinely seek our support or care. Behind the facade of guilt, anger, or self-pity lies a desperate craving for attention and control, a cry for help from an insecure ego clamoring to be heard. We unconsciously attract people who embody our deepest fears, because it's only when we face them head-on that we can begin to heal, and those who prey on us are often the very ones who feed our darkest anxieties. The reason we fall for people's manipulation is that we're often seeking an authentic connection, but we mistakenly equate vulnerability with intimacy, overlooking the fact that true intimacy is a choice made with a clear mind, not a reaction born of desperation. We tend to overlook the red flags of manipulative behavior because it's hard to confront the fact that we're being exploited, not because of some inherent weakness on our part, but because we're trying to shield ourselves from the shame of being tricked. When we're manipulated into playing the victim, it's not about genuine vulnerability. It's actually a carefully crafted attempt to elicit sympathy and gain control over the people around us. The manipulator's greatest fear is not rejection, but rather being seen as vulnerable themselves, since this would undermine their carefully constructed image of invincibility. Playing the victim is a way to deflect scrutiny while keeping others constantly fixated on us, thereby ensuring a steady supply of attention and validation that we're desperately seeking. What drives manipulators to exploit our emotions in this way is not empathy, but rather a deep-seated need for power, as they see emotional vulnerability in others as an opportunity to exert control over them. When we fall prey to being played as victims, we're often more invested in maintaining the narrative of our own victimhood than in confronting the reality of our own vulnerabilities, which is precisely what keeps the manipulation going. Beneath the facade of emotional fragility lies a masterfully crafted illusion of moral superiority, allowing manipulators to justify their own self-destructive behaviors and maintain a sense of grandiosity, and at the same time, to avoid the very vulnerability they pretend to possess. People often pretend to be our safe haven, but what they usually crave is a sense of control over us. They hijack our trust by pretending to be helpless, so we feel sorry for them and let our defenses down. Behind this masquerade of vulnerability often lies a person with a toxic sense of entitlement and a deep-seated need for validation. What may seem like genuine concern or attraction is often a clever disguise for a desire to manipulate and dominate, to exert control over our emotions and actions. The more we let ourselves be sucked into their game, the more we become trapped in a cycle of self-deception, where we attribute their manipulative behavior to our own flaws rather than their true motives. It's only when we acknowledge the gap between their facade and their true intentions that we can begin to rebuild healthy relationships and take back control of our lives. Remember, the power to recognize and resist manipulation lies within you, but it's only by acknowledging the vulnerabilities we all share that we can truly take back control. Thank you for joining me on this critical exploration of how people hijack our trust and sympathy. If you found this insightful, be sure to like, share your observations in the comments below, and subscribe for more content that uncovers the complexities of human psychology.